Have you ever caught someone stealing glances at you, texting you randomly, or acting a little nervous when you're around? If so, there's a good chance he has feelings for you, but is trying to keep them hidden. Some guys, especially those who are shy or afraid of rejection, won't confess their emotions outright. Instead, they'll show their love in subtle, unconscious ways, through their actions, body language, and even the way they react to certain situations. When a guy secretly likes you, his behavior changes in ways he doesn't even realize. He might remember tiny details about you that others forget, find excuses to be around you all the time, or even get a little quiet when you mention other guys. He might tease you playfully, support you in everything you do, and give you small, thoughtful compliments instead of direct ones. These little things may not seem like much at first, but when you start noticing multiple signs, it becomes clear that he's crushing on you. Hard. Another major giveaway? His body language. He might mirror your actions, fidget when he talks to you, or suddenly act awkward when you're near. He could get teased by his friends whenever you're around, or they might drop hints that he likes you. And let's not forget jealousy. If he gets quiet, distant, or changes the subject whenever you mention another guy, it's a huge sign that he wishes he were the one you were interested in. The thing is, when a guy truly likes you but is afraid to say it, his feelings will still show up in small, unintentional ways. He might text you for no real reason, randomly check up on you, or go out of his way to make sure you're happy, even if he pretends it's no big deal. He may act like your biggest supporter, noticing and encouraging even the smallest things about you. So how do you know for sure? Watch for these 12 undeniable signs that he's secretly in love with you, but too afraid to confess. If you notice several of them happening consistently, there's a high chance he's crushing on you, whether he admits it or not. 1. He steals glances at you when he thinks you're not looking. When a guy secretly likes you but is afraid to confess, one of the biggest signs is the way he looks at you when he thinks you're not paying attention. His eyes give him away, even if he's trying his best to keep his feelings hidden. He might steal quick glances, observe you from across the room, or hold eye contact for just a second too long before looking away. This happens because he's drawn to you, and no matter how much he tries to control it, his gaze naturally finds you. He's fascinated by the little things, how you smile, how you talk, or even the way you react to different situations. He doesn't want to be obvious about it, so instead of openly staring, he sneaks in quick looks whenever he can. You might notice that every time you turn toward him, he quickly shifts his eyes elsewhere as if he wasn't watching. That's a clear sign he was lost in the moment, admiring you without realizing he'd been caught. Sometimes, his glances aren't just random, they're filled with meaning. If he looks at you with a soft expression, a hint of a smile, or even wide eyes full of curiosity, it means you have his full attention. He's noticing things about you that others don't, and it's his way of showing interest without saying a word. Even if he doesn't have the courage to approach you, his eyes reveal everything he's feeling deep down. In group settings, his gaze will naturally follow you. Even if he's talking to someone else, his attention always seems to shift back to you. If you're laughing, he watches you with admiration. If you're speaking, he listens more intently than others. It's as if he's silently memorizing the details about you. He may not even realize how obvious he's being, but his subconscious actions expose the emotions he's trying to hide. One of the biggest giveaways is how he reacts when you catch him looking. If he quickly looks away, acts distracted, or suddenly becomes busy with something else, he's trying to play it cool. Some guys might even give a little nervous smile or raise their eyebrows in surprise as if they weren't expecting to be caught. Others might hold eye contact for a brief second before breaking away, unsure of what to do next. His stolen glances aren't just accidental. They're proof that you're on his mind, even when he's trying to hide it. His eyes are drawn to you because he's interested, even if he's too afraid to say it out loud. If you start paying attention, you'll notice the pattern. His gaze always finds its way back to you, no matter where you are. 2. His body language changes when you're around. When a guy is secretly in love with you, but afraid to confess, his body language will naturally change whenever you're around. Even if he tries to act normal, His subconscious reactions will reveal his true feelings. Body language is one of the biggest giveaways because it's something people do without even realizing it. If you pay close attention, you'll notice small but significant shifts in his posture, movements and gestures whenever you enter the room. One of the most obvious signs is nervousness. He might fidget, play with his hands, adjust his clothes, or touch his hair more than usual. This happens because your presence makes him self-conscious, and he wants to look his best without making it too obvious. If he's normally confident and relaxed but suddenly becomes a little clumsy or awkward around you, it's a clear sign that you have an effect on him. Another sign is his posture. If he likes you, he will instinctively stand taller, straighten his shoulders, and try to appear more confident. This is a subconscious way of impressing you and making himself more noticeable. On the other hand, if he's shy, he might shrink slightly, avoid eye contact, or seem hesitant in his movements. Either way, his body language shifts because your presence affects him on a deeper level. His feet and body direction can also reveal his interest. People naturally turn toward those they're most focused on, so if his feet, chest, or entire body are angled toward you, even when he's talking to someone else, it means you have his attention. If he leans in when you speak, even in a loud environment, it shows he's genuinely interested in what you have to say. Mirroring is another subconscious sign of attraction. If you cross your legs, he might do the same. If you take a sip of your drink, he could follow suit a few seconds later. This happens because people unconsciously mimic the actions of those they feel connected to. If you start noticing that his movements subtly match yours, it's a strong indicator that he's drawn to you. His facial expressions also change around you. He might smile more, raise his eyebrows slightly when he sees you, or have a soft, almost dreamy look in his eyes when he watches you. If he's trying to hide his feelings, he may quickly look away or pretend to be uninterested when you catch him staring. Even if he never admits it in words, his body language speaks louder than anything. The way he reacts to your presence, whether through nervousness, mirroring, or posture, is a clear sign that he feels something deep for you, even if he's too scared to say it. 3. He remembers small details about you that others forget. When a guy is secretly in love with you but afraid to confess, one of the biggest signs is that he remembers small details about you that others forget. Even if he pretends not to care, his actions will tell a different story. If he brings up little things you mentioned in passing, or remembers specific facts about you that even close friends overlook, it's a strong indication that you hold a special place in his mind. You might casually mention your favorite coffee order, a childhood memory, or a random detail about your day. And later, he surprises you by bringing it up. He may say something like, "Didn't you say you love caramel lattes? I got you one." Or, "I remember you mentioned you love this song, so I thought you'd like this playlist." This shows that he listens carefully to everything you say, not just the big things, but also the tiny, seemingly insignificant details. It's not just about remembering your preferences. It's about the effort he puts into showing that he values what you share with him. If you tell him about an upcoming event, like a family gathering or an important work presentation, he might later ask, "Hey, how did that meeting go?" Or, "Did you have fun at your cousin's wedding?" The fact that he recalls these details proves that he genuinely cares about you and what's happening in your life. Even things you mentioned once or a long time ago will stick in his mind. Maybe you told him your favorite flower, and weeks later, he casually mentions seeing that flower somewhere and thinking of you. Or perhaps you once said you hate a particular food, and he makes sure never to suggest it when making plans. These small gestures may seem minor, but they show that he's paying extra attention to you, something people usually only do when they have strong feelings. You might also notice that he remembers little things about your habits and routines. He knows what makes you happy, what stresses you out, and how you react to different situations. Maybe he notices that you always hum a certain song when you're in a good mood, or that you bite your lip when you're deep in thought. These tiny observations prove that he watches you closely, even if he never says anything about it. Most people forget small details unless they have a personal reason to remember them. If he recalls things that even you barely remember telling him, it's not just because he has a good memory. It's because you matter to him more than he's willing to admit. Even if he's too afraid to confess his feelings, his actions reveal that you're always on his mind. 4. He gets jealous but tries to hide it. When a guy secretly loves you but is too afraid to confess, jealousy is one of the biggest signs that reveal his true feelings. Even though he tries to hide it, his reactions will betray him the moment you mention or interact with another guy. He may not openly admit that it bothers him, but his body language, mood, and subtle actions will tell a different story. One of the most obvious signs of hidden jealousy is a sudden shift in his mood. If you start talking about another guy, whether it's a friend, co-worker, or even a celebrity, he might suddenly go quiet, act distracted, or seem less interested in the conversation. He could respond with short answers, change the subject, or even make sarcastic or dismissive comments about the guy you're mentioning. This isn't because he doesn't care. It's actually the opposite. He cares too much and doesn't want to show it. His body language will also reveal his discomfort. He might cross his arms, clench his jaw, or fidget when you bring up another guy. If you're out in a group setting and you're giving attention to someone else, he might shift his position, look away, or suddenly become very focused on his phone, as if he's trying to act indifferent. But deep down, he's paying attention to every word and every interaction, analyzing whether the other guy is a threat. Sometimes, he might try to subtly compete for your attention. If he sees you laughing at another guy's joke, he may suddenly try to be funnier. If you compliment someone else, he might start pointing out his own strengths or achievements. It's his way of subconsciously reminding you that he's the one who should have your attention. Another way he might hide his jealousy is by teasing you or making playful yet slightly critical comments about the guy you're talking about. For example, if you mention that someone is good-looking, he might respond with something like, "He's not that great." Or if you say a guy is really smart, he might say, "Yeah, but I bet he's boring." These small remarks may seem harmless, but they stem from his insecurity and his hidden feelings for you. In some cases, he may even distance himself from you for a while after witnessing you with another guy. If he suddenly becomes less talkative, takes longer to reply to your messages, or acts colder than usual, it's likely because he's dealing with his jealousy internally. He might not want to admit that it bothers him, so instead of confronting his feelings, he withdraws as a way to protect himself. Even though he tries to hide it, jealousy is hard to suppress, especially when emotions are strong. If you notice these subtle reactions, it's a clear sign that he has deeper feelings for you than he's willing to admit. He might not say it out loud, but his jealousy is proof that he sees you as more than just a friend. 5. He finds excuses to be around you all the time. When a guy secretly loves you but is afraid to confess, one of the biggest signs is that he constantly finds excuses to be around you. Whether it's intentional or not, he will go out of his way to be in your presence, even when there's no real reason for him to be there. He won't openly admit that he just wants to spend time with you, so instead, he'll come up with subtle, seemingly casual ways to be near you without making it obvious. You might notice that he suddenly starts showing up in places where he knows you'll be. If you both go to the same school or workplace, he'll somehow always be around when you're on break, walking to your next class, or grabbing coffee. He might even adjust his schedule or routine to match yours, making it seem like a coincidence when, in reality, he's just trying to create more opportunities to be close to you. Another way he finds excuses to be around you is by offering to help you with random things. Maybe you casually mention that you're struggling with a project, and he's immediately offering assistance, even if it's something he normally wouldn't be interested in. If your car needs fixing, your laptop is acting up, or you need help moving something heavy, he'll be the first one to volunteer. He's not just being nice, he genuinely wants to spend time with you and be useful in your life. If you're in a group setting, pay attention to how often he gravitates toward you. No matter how many people are around, he'll somehow always end up sitting next to you, standing close, or engaging in conversations where you're involved. Even if he's talking to someone else, his body language will be directed toward you, as if he's subconsciously drawn to you. He might also initiate random hangouts or find reasons to text you, even if it's about something completely unnecessary. He'll ask for your opinion on something small, pretend he needs help with something, or randomly send a funny meme just to keep the conversation going. His goal is simple. He just wants a reason to talk to you and stay connected. Sometimes, his excuses to be near you will be so subtle that you won't even realize it at first. Maybe he suddenly shares an interest in something you like, starts visiting your favorite coffee shop, or joins an activity you're involved in. Even if it seems like a coincidence, there's a good chance he's doing it just to be close to you. No matter how hard he tries to hide it, his actions will make it clear. He enjoys your presence, and he's always looking for ways to be around you. Even if he's too scared to confess his feelings, the fact that he keeps making time for you is a strong sign that he's falling for you, but isn't ready to say it out loud. 6. His friends tease him whenever you're near. When a guy secretly loves you but is afraid to confess, his friends often become the biggest giveaway. No matter how hard he tries to hide his feelings, the people closest to him usually notice, and they won't let him off the hook so easily. If his friends tease him whenever you're around, it's a strong sign that they know he has feelings for you. One of the most obvious signs is when his friends start smirking, nudging him, or giving him that look when you walk into the room. They might exchange glances, whisper something to him, or even laugh under their breath. This is because they're aware of his crush and can't help but mess with him about it. Even if they don't say anything directly, their reactions can tell you everything you need to know. Sometimes, his friends will take it a step further and tease him right in front of you. They might casually drop hints like, "Oh, look, your favorite person is here," or "Why don't you just ask her out already?" If they're feeling extra bold, they might even say something embarrassing that makes him blush or act defensive. The more he tries to brush it off or change the subject, the more obvious it becomes that he has feelings for you. Another clue is how his friends behave when you're around. If they start acting overly excited, giggly, or even slightly awkward, it could be because they know their friend likes you and they're waiting to see how he reacts. Some friends might try to leave you two alone on purpose, making up excuses to step away so he has a chance to talk to you. Others might joke about how often he talks about you when you're not there, giving away just how much he thinks about you. If you catch him getting flustered, rolling his eyes, or telling his friends to shut up when they start teasing, that's a major sign that they're exposing something he's not ready to admit. His frustration isn't because he doesn't like you. It's because he's not sure how to handle his feelings being so obvious. Even if he tries to act cool, his friends' teasing can reveal the truth he's trying to hide. They wouldn't bother teasing him if there wasn't something real behind it. If you notice his friends always acting different when you're around, making playful jokes, or giving him knowing looks, chances are they already know what he's too scared to say out loud. He's totally into you. 7. He texts you randomly, even without a real reason. When a guy secretly loves you but is afraid to confess, one of the clearest signs is that he texts you randomly, without any real reason. Even if the conversation doesn't have a specific purpose, he just wants to talk to you and stay connected. His texts might seem casual on the surface, but deep down, they're his way of maintaining a presence in your life. You might notice that he sends you messages at odd times, like late at night or randomly in the middle of the day. It could be something as simple as, "Hey, what's up?" or "I just saw something that reminded me of you." Even if there's no real need to text, he finds an excuse just to start a conversation. He's not asking anything urgent or important. He just wants to keep the communication going because he enjoys talking to you. Sometimes he'll send you funny memes, random thoughts, or even pointless updates about his day. These messages might seem like nothing, but they actually mean a lot. It shows that you're on his mind, even during the most random moments. If he texts you about something small, like, "I just had the best burger ever," or "This song sounds like something you'd like," it means he's thinking about you even when you're not around. Another clue is how quickly he responds when you text him. If he always replies fast or keeps the conversation going instead of letting it die out, it's a sign he wants to keep talking to you. Even if you don't reply immediately, he doesn't let the chat go cold. He finds another reason to restart the conversation later. If he's shy or afraid to confess his feelings, his texts might not be flirty or obvious. Instead, they'll feel like friendly check-ins, casual conversations, or even silly messages that don't seem like much. But if he's always the one reaching out, even when there's no real reason, it's because he's looking for ways to stay close to you. His texts might also be full of little details that show he's been paying attention to you. He might remember something you said days ago and bring it up in conversation. If you once mentioned your love for a certain coffee, he might randomly text, "Guess what I'm drinking right now?" just to create a playful moment between you two. A guy who isn't interested won't go out of his way to start conversations for no reason. If he's constantly texting you about random things, finding small excuses to check in, or keeping the chat alive even when there's nothing important to say, it's a clear sign. He wants to be in your life, even if he's too scared to admit how much he really likes you. 8. He always supports and encourages you, even in the smallest things. When a guy secretly loves you but is afraid to confess, one of the biggest signs is how much he supports and encourages you, even in the smallest things. No matter what you're doing, he always finds a way to cheer you on, boost your confidence, and make you feel like you can accomplish anything. He might not always say how he feels, but his actions prove that he genuinely cares about your happiness and success. One of the most telling signs is that he listens closely when you talk about your goals, dreams, or even minor challenges. Whether it's something big, like a career move, or something as small as trying a new hobby, he's always there to encourage you. If you're nervous about an exam, a job interview, or a big decision, he'll be the first to tell you, "You got this," or "I believe in you." He makes sure you know that he sees your potential, even when you doubt yourself. His support doesn't stop at words. He backs it up with actions. If you're working on a project, preparing for a competition, or simply struggling with something, he'll offer help in any way he can. Maybe he sends you useful tips, stays up late helping you practice, or even just checks in to see how things are going. Even if it's something he isn't personally interested in, he still takes the time to learn about it, because he's invested in you. Another clue is how much he celebrates your wins, no matter how small they are. If you achieve something, even if it's something others might overlook, he's genuinely excited for you. Maybe you finally finished a book you've been reading, cooked a meal you were nervous about, or managed to wake up early after struggling with your schedule. While others might not notice, he does. He's the type to send you a congrats text or tell you how proud he is, making you feel valued and appreciated. Even when things don't go as planned, he's there to lift you up. If you fail at something or feel discouraged, he doesn't let you stay down for long. He reminds you of your strengths, helps you see the positive side, and reassures you that setbacks don't define you. His support isn't just about cheering when things are good, it's about standing by your side when things are tough too. The smallest details matter to him. If you mention that you're trying to drink more water, he might casually remind you, "Did you stay hydrated today?" If you're nervous about speaking up in a meeting, he might encourage you with a simple, "You're going to do great." These little things show that he pays attention and truly cares. A guy who doesn't have feelings for you wouldn't go out of his way to support you in every little thing. If he constantly lifts you up, encourages you, and genuinely wants to see you succeed, even in the tiniest details of your life, it's because he loves you, even if he's too afraid to say it. 9. He acts nervous or awkward around you sometimes. When a guy secretly loves you but is afraid to confess, he might struggle to keep his emotions under control when you're around. One of the clearest signs of this is when he acts nervous or awkward in your presence. No matter how confident or composed he is around others, something about you makes him lose that control. Sometimes his awkwardness shows up in how he reacts to things. If you compliment him, he might not know how to respond and just laugh nervously. If you catch him staring, he might look away so fast that it becomes obvious. He might even blurt out something random or overreact to simple things just because he's so overwhelmed by his emotions. The funniest part, he probably doesn't act this way around anyone else. If you notice that he's completely chill with other people, but turns into a bundle of nerves around you, it's a strong sign that his feelings for you are much deeper than he's willing to admit. 10. He gives you subtle compliments instead of direct ones. When a guy secretly loves you, but is afraid to confess, he won't always give you direct, obvious compliments. Instead, he'll compliment you in subtle, low-key ways that don't make it too obvious that he has feelings for you. He doesn't want to come across as too eager or make things awkward, so he finds little ways to praise you without it seeming like a big deal. Instead of saying something straightforward like, "You're so beautiful," or "I really like you," he might say things like, "That color looks really good on you. You always have the best music taste. You're actually really funny. I didn't expect that. I don't know how you manage to stay so organized. I could never." These types of compliments sound casual, but if you pay attention, you'll notice that they're more personal and thoughtful than the usual compliments people give. He's not just saying nice dress. He's pointing out how something specifically suits you. He's not just saying you're smart. He's noticing the way you handle things differently from others. Another way he gives subtle compliments is by praising your personality, skills, or unique traits. He might admire how kind you are, how hard you work, or how you always manage to make people laugh. Instead of saying, "I love your personality," he'll say something like, "People must love being around you. You have such a great vibe." It's his way of appreciating you without making it obvious that he's crushing on you hard. He might also disguise his compliments as playful teasing. Instead of outright saying you're cute, he might say something like, "You're so dramatic, it's kind of adorable." Instead of saying, "I love how smart you are," he might joke, "How do you always know everything? Are you secretly a genius?" He turns compliments into light-hearted banter because it feels safer than admitting how much he really admires you. Sometimes, his compliments come in the form of comparisons. He might say things like, "No one else could have done that as well as you did," or "You're honestly way better at this than me." He wants to lift you up, but he doesn't want to make his feelings too obvious, so he keeps it subtle. Even if he's afraid to be direct, the fact that he notices and compliments you in small ways means he sees you differently from everyone else. He's paying attention to details about you, appreciating you in ways that others don't, and finding ways to make you feel special, even if he's too scared to admit why. 11. He unconsciously mirrors your actions and behavior. When a guy secretly loves you, but is afraid to confess, one of the biggest subconscious signs is mirroring. When he unintentionally copies your actions, speech, or behavior. This happens because people naturally mimic those they feel connected to, and since he has strong feelings for you, his body and mind instinctively follow your lead without him even realizing it. You might notice that he copies the way you move. If you take a sip of your drink, he might do the same a few seconds later. If you lean forward while talking, he might unconsciously mirror your posture. Even subtle things, like crossing his arms when you do, or adjusting his seating position to match yours, are signs that he's in sync with you. His speech patterns might also change when he's around you. If you have a specific way of talking, using certain phrases, or even laughing a particular way, he might start doing the same without realizing it. If you say, "That's hilarious," often, he might suddenly start using that phrase too. If you tend to speak fast when you're excited, he might match your pace. It's not something he does on purpose. It just happens because he's so focused on you. Another way mirroring shows up is in emotional reactions. If you're feeling excited about something, you might notice that he gets just as excited, even if it's not something he usually cares about. If you're feeling down, his mood might also shift, as if he's emotionally connected to you. He doesn't just listen to what you say, he feels it too. Even his interests and preferences might start aligning with yours. If you casually mention your favorite TV show, he might suddenly start watching it and bringing it up in conversation. If you love a certain type of music, he might add it to his playlist. He's not necessarily doing this on purpose to impress you. He's just drawn to the things that make you happy. You can test this theory by subtly changing your behavior. If you rest your chin on your hand while talking, see if he does it too. If you use a specific phrase, notice if he starts using it more often. If he's unconsciously mirroring you, it's a clear sign that he feels a deep connection, even if he's trying to hide his true feelings. Mirroring is something the brain does when it feels a strong attraction and bond with someone. If he constantly reflects your movements, speech, and emotions, it's because he's tuned into you in a way that goes beyond friendship, whether he admits it or not. 12. He gets quiet or uncomfortable when you talk about other guys. When a guy secretly loves you but is afraid to confess, one of the biggest giveaways is how he reacts when you mention other guys. Even if he tries to act cool and unbothered, his body language, tone, and overall vibe will shift the moment the topic comes up. He might get quiet, distant, or even a little moody, because deep down, the idea of you liking someone else makes him uncomfortable. You might notice that he suddenly stops contributing to the conversation or gives short, vague responses. If you say, "This guy in my class is really funny," he might just reply with a dry, "Oh, nice." If you talk about a date you went on, he might change the subject quickly or brush it off with a forced laugh. It's not that he doesn't care, it's the opposite. He cares too much, and hearing about another guy makes him feel uneasy. Some guys try to play it off with sarcasm or teasing. He might joke, "Oh, another guy. Wow, how many admirers do you have?" Or say something like, "He better not mess up, or I'll have to step in." While it seems playful, these little remarks show that he's trying to mask his feelings behind humor. Others will get defensive or dismissive without realizing it. If you mention how attractive a celebrity is, he might roll his eyes and say, "He's not that good looking." If you talk about a guy who's been texting you, he might casually say, "He's probably just being nice," downplaying the situation. It's his way of convincing himself, and maybe you, that the other guy doesn't matter. Then there are the guys who completely shut down. If he suddenly seems less engaged in the conversation, looks away, or starts scrolling on his phone, it's a sign that he doesn't want to hear it. He might not be able to express his jealousy outright, but his silence says it all. Even his body language will betray him. His smile might fade slightly, he might cross his arms, or his posture may stiffen. If he was joking around before, he might become noticeably more serious. These subtle shifts show that, whether he admits it or not, he doesn't like the idea of you with someone else. If you ever catch him asking follow-up questions about the guy, pay attention to his tone. He might ask, "So, do you like him?" Or, "Are you going to see him again?" But instead of sounding curious, he might seem hesitant, as if he's bracing himself for an answer he doesn't want to hear. At the end of the day, a guy who isn't interested wouldn't care who you talk about. But if he gets quiet, distant, or awkward whenever another guy's name comes up, it's because he wishes he was the one you were talking about instead.